دل کو اپنے ٹھنڈا شربت پلانے والا، قاتل کو اپنے ٹھنڈا شربت پلانے والا، بے چین ہو رہا ہے اب زہر کے اثر سے، اٹھا کوئی جنازہ، زینب کے بازوؤں کو شبیر چومتے ہیں، زینب کے بازوؤں کو شبیر چومتے ہیں، کیا جانیے علی نے کیا کہہ دیا پسر سے، اٹھا کوئی جنازہ، اور کوفے کا ذرہ ذرہ روتا ہے خون کے آنسو، کوفے کا ذرہ ذرہ روتا ہے خون کے آنسو، محروم ہو رہے ہیں حسنین اب پدر سے، اٹھا کوئی جنازہ، پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے، لعنت اللہ علی قوم الظالمین۔
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Ahsant. Jazakumullah khair. Requesting Dr. to please enlighten us on today's topic and the way of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant shifa to everyone, whosoever has requested for du'as, for all of them, those who are ill and ailing, those who are in whatever status they are, Allah grant them shifa by Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. And those who have departed, Allah, this hour they be the guests of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. And the ajr and the reward of this majlis be the return of our Imam, and that we are all enlisted among the best and the most sincere of his servants, inshaAllah. We have been instructed by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to laud and to praise Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam, and to mention his fada'il, that is a command, a divine command. In one of the statements, Rasulullah, he says, Zayyinu majalisakum bi-dhikri Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is, you make your majlis beautiful. Zayyinu, adorn your majalis by the remembrance and mentioning of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam and his virtues. Zikru aliyin ibadah. Remembering Amir al-Mu'mineen, mentioning him, all that is worship. Now, one of the questions that was asked from one of the nobles said that the name of Ali is Abu Turab, Turab is dust, dirt, and that is low, heavy and on the earth. Once we see that Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he is sitting high up on the fourth sky. Why Prophet Isa, such a lofty position he has, and why is it that Amir al-Mu'mineen is here on the earth, Isa on the skies? Now here he opened his mouth to answer, and the person who's replying is Mirza Abul Hassan. And most of these ash'ar that poets recite, may that be in Farsi, in English, in Arabic, in whatever language, some of them, they become globally recognized and famous. So these are those things that have been connected to the Ahlul Bayt, and there's a divine connection to it which makes them such lofty and high. So the question was, how come Prophet Isa is so high up in the skies and Amirul Mu'mineen Ali on the earth? Now here he answers, says, Masih bar falako Murtaza Ali beturab, dilam ze atesh in ghusse bood bas ke kabab. Says Christ on the sky and Murtaza Ali on the earth, my heart in grief, it was in flares and hurt. سوال کردم از این ماجرا ز پیر خرد، چو غنچه لب به تکلم گشود و داد جواب. I asked the old wise man, what is the reason for that? Why he is so high up and he is so low? Like a bud he blossomed, and he such replied, که قدر هر دو به میزان عدل سنجیدند، علی گرانتر از او بود در همه ابواب. Says the worth and the value of both of them was very justly measured. Ali was worthier than Christ in all dimensions. بماند کفه میزان مرتضی به تراب، به آسمان چهارم مسیح کرد شتاب. Says because the Murtaza's side of scale was so heavy in all those qualities and virtues that it got heavier and stuck to the ground. And because this one was heavy, the other was light, it flew up to this fourth sky. Says now it flew up to the fourth sky. مسیح کفه خورشید را گرفت به کف، به جستجوی علی هست تا به یوم حساب. Says Christ, he held the base of the scale of the sun, and until the day of judgment he is in search of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam, that what is the virtue, the quality, the rank that Amirul Mu'mineen has. So Amirul Mu'mineen, that what he has is what was given to him by Allah. And even in that quote that we have, when Prophet Musa and Khizr, Prophet Musa and Khizr, they came together, they were by the Mediterranean Sea. There a bird, it comes down to the Mediterranean Sea, dips its little beak in the waters, drinks a little bit of water, and a little bit of water was out of the beak of the bird, which dropped off into the ocean. Jibreel descends and says, tell me, Musa, you tell me, that this bird which came and drank water from this ocean, and the little droplets of water that dropped out of the beak, what was that? Prophet Musa says, I don't know. Prophet Khizr also said, I don't know. Here Jibreel says, the little droplet of water that dropped out of the beak of that tiny bird is all the knowledge that the two of you have, both Prophet Khizr and Prophet Musa alayhim assalam. Says in the end of time, Rasulullah, Prophet Muhammad, and his successor, Amirul Mu'mineen, the knowledge that they will have is like as vast as all of these oceans. That is Amirul Mu'mineen and the azamat that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has given to him. So remembering, mentioning the fada'il of Amirul Mu'mineen, it is a divine duty. In a hadith, Rasulullah says, Jibreel came to me, Nazala alayya wa qal, and he said to me, Inna Allah ya'muruka an taquma bi tafdhil Ali. Says Rasulullah, Allah has instructed, Allah has commanded you to rise and speak about the virtues and the qualities, the fada'il of Ali. خطيبا على أصحابك, to your companions, ليبلغوا من بعدهم ذلك عنك, so that after you this message gets delivered. ويأمر جميع الملائكة أن تسمع ما تذكره, and Allah has instructed all the angels also to listen to what you say. والله يوحي إليك يا محمد أن من خالفك في أمره فله النار. And then Allah has commanded you, Prophet, whosoever goes against this divine command of the Almighty, for him is the fire. وَمَنْ أَطَاعَكَ فَلَهُ الْجَنَّةِ, and whosoever is obedient to you in this your command, for him is the heaven. So the criteria is quite clear, mentioned by Rasulullah. Hell and heaven is distributed. That is the measure of all of that. It is Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. So when we talk about Amirul Mu'mineen, we mention his fada'il, his virtues, that is that divine command of the Almighty Allah. Abdullah bin Umar, he is the son of the second Khalifa. Once they say, come and said to him that why don't you list the companions of the Prophet? He listed a long list of companions of the Prophet. And then the reporter, he says, I said to him, how come you did not mention the name of Ali in these companion list? He in reply says, he is not among the companions. He is higher than that. He is among the Ahlul Bayt. So even those who stood against the Ahlul Bayt, they knew the virtue, they knew the greatness, they knew what they are, they knew who they are, they knew what Allah has intended for them. All of that was clear to them. But still, after that, it's that jealousy, that hate, that pride, that connection, that want, desire for this dunya, and its charms and beauties. They had to stand against Amirul Mu'mineen. They had to stand against Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Now, why do we mention these fada'il of Amirul Mu'mineen so much and so often? So that we know under whose banner we are, where do we belong, who are we with? And under the banner of Amirul Mu'mineen, we can't just be as we wish. So someone who is connected to Amirul Mu'mineen has some guidelines, has to be within those parameters and cannot be otherwise. Now from the day of Arafah until Mubahala, most of the manaqib that we have and the virtues that have been mentioned for Amirul Mu'mineen have been mentioned either in the verses of Quran or in the sayings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. One of the titles that is for Amirul Mu'mineen is that he carries the maqamun nafs, that is, he is the soul of the Prophet. Now, when the ayat of Suratul Bara'ah were revealed, instructions of Allah were that this message this declaration be delivered to the mushrikeen. Initially, the flag was given to someone else. Then Allah said to the Prophet, either you yourself deliver this message to the mushrikeen of Mecca or someone like you. So when it was someone like him, then the flag was taken away and given to Amirul Mu'mineen. And Amirul Mu'mineen, he takes the flag and without all alone, he comes to Mecca. Now Mecca is the place where the Muslims were ousted. Rasulullah was ousted from there. So it's coming back to a place which is the enemies and who don't want him. And returning to a place being ousted from. The reason for that also because he killed so many of their ancestors, of the mushrikeen, of the kuffar. And who is among them? It is Amirul Mu'mineen. So he has killed so many from the ancestors of the kuffar and mushrikeen. He takes the flag and the message from Rasulullah and all alone walks here to Mecca, delivers the message without any fear, without any fright. That is Amirul Mu'mineen. That no one could be like him in delivering these messages, carrying out the commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is to Mecca, which is now the center of Tawheed of Rasulullah. And at that time, it was the mushrikeen who were there. So that is Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, who is always by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In another quote, Rasulullah, he says that Ya Ali, anta minni wa ana mink. You are from me and I am from you. Whosoever stands against you has stood against me. Whosoever has stood against me has stood against God. Whosoever has loved you has loved me, has loved the Almighty God. Now, in those days after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people, they used to come and congregate around the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, this is prior to him being appointed as the Khalifa. They used to come and chant these slogans, Anta waliyuna, Anta imamuna, Anta khalifatuna. You are our Imam, our Khalifa, our Imam, our Wali. Now, when they came closer and they saw Amir al-Mu'mineen, they could not handle him. They could not tolerate him. It wasn't easy to be with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam's personality was amazing. Personality of Imam al-Asr also, it's the same like his grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, during the time of the second Khalifa, this debate was there, who will be his successor after him. Everyone said that who should be the successor. The second Khalifa, he says that I'll write this wasiyat, this will, that is, after me, you bring these 6 people, Talha, Zubair, Abdul Rahman bin Auf, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, Usman and Ali alayhi salam. You bring them, you lock them in a room, all these 6 people, and they will decide who the next Khalifa would be. That is, after Umar, who would be the next Khalifa. They bring these 6 people, they lock them in the room, and they said, you have to decide who is the next Khalifa. Now, 6 people over here, then it could be a draw as well. And the instructions of Umar also were given too, that if it was a draw, there what you do is that he says, my vote will be with Abdul Rahman bin Auf. Whoever he gives the vote to will be the next Khalifa. And it so happens they were brought in the room, they were locked in the room, they have a draw, and they have a vote, and it is a draw now, 3-3. Now, upon the instructions of the second Khalifa, Umar, Abdul Rahman bin Auf has the vote, and he say, my vote is to Ali alayhi salam. So Imam is selected as the Khalifa, as the third Khalifa in that meeting. And what he does is that he stands, Abdul Rahman bin Auf, he stands amidst those 6 people, amidst them, comes and extends his hands upon the hands of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam, swears an allegiance, saying that ala kitabillah, upon the book of Allah, and in accordance to the teachings of the Prophet and the teachings of Shaykhain, I appoint you as the next Khalifa. The moment he said teachings of Shaykhain, Imam pulled his hands behind. And he said, if I was to be the Khalifa, it will be ala kitabillah, upon the book of Allah and the teachings of Rasulullah and my teachings, not Shaykhain. Now here many people, they objected on Ali and they said that why did you not take that Khilafah? You should have taken that Khilafah and then you could have done what you want to do. Imam says, a Khilafah which is based on a lie, that I will never accept, I'll never do. From day one, the inception and the foundation of everything has to be based on haqq, on truth. So I cannot say something and then turn away from that word of mine and then do what I want. Amir al-Mu'mineen, his personality was that. It was difficult for the people who were around him to tolerate. Or for example, in one of these meetings, even the second Khalifa, he comes and says, Ya Ali, why are you so abrupt? Why do you answer questions so quick and fast? Why don't you be diplomatic? With diplomacy, you should be working. That whenever someone asks something, think over it, play with the words, and then slowly give an answer. he, Amir al-Mu'mineen, quickly opens his fist in front of the second Khalifa's face, and he says, "How many are there?" He said, "5." Says, "Why did you be so quick? Why were you so quick? Why did you answer so fast? You should have played with the words, with diplomacy, and slowly you should have said, 'How many are there?'" He says, "No, I don't need to, because I know there are 5. I said 5." Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Just like that, that was known to you. Your 5 fingers are evident and you know there are 5. Everything in this creation is before me, just like these 5 fingers, and I know everything. So I don't need to be diplomatic. I just say what is I have to say." So the tolerating the personality of Amir al-Mu'mineen wasn't so easy. Now the enemies, they also admitted to this. Among these enemies is Abraar. He is the one who played the cunning game in removing Amir al-Mu'mineen from the office and appointing Muawiyah in office. So what he does is that he was chosen as the judge, and people, they said, "Who whatever he says, we will abide by that." He comes and sits on the mimbar and he says that, "Just like I remove my ring, I remove Ali from office, and just like I put my ring back in my finger, I install and I appoint Muawiyah into the office as the Khalifa." Now, these people who did that cunning game and they stood against Amir al-Mu'mineen, they knew what they are doing. They knew that he is right. They knew that they are wrong. Now, here this Abraar, and all of them, they were all linguistics and great poets. He has a poem now when after appointing Muawiyah as the Amir, and then Muawiyah also was playing games with him now. After getting into power and throne, now he was being nasty to Abraar. Abraar, he writes a poem and sends it to Muawiyah. Now this poem has been recorded in our books as Qasida Jaljaliyah. And Allama Amini has mentioned it in his book. There, this Abraar, he writes this note saying that Muawiyatul hal la tajhali. Says, Muawiyah, don't forget the story, what had happened. An subul al-haqqi la ta'dali, and don't you switch, and don't you change parties now. نسيت احتيالي في جلق علي أهلها يوم لبس الحلي. Have you forgotten what I did and how I removed Ali from office and how I appointed you into the office? Says خلعت الخلافة من حيدر كخلع النعال من الأرجل. I took away that khilafat from Haydar just like you take away your footwear. وألبستها فيك يا ابن اللئام كلبس الخواتيم بالأمل. And O son of the accursed, and I put that khilafat on you just like wearing a ring that you wear in your fingers. And then he says, وَلَوْلَايَ كُنْتَ كَمِثْلِ النِّسَاءِ تُغَافُ الْخُرُوجِ مِنَ الْمَنْزِلِ. And if it wasn't for me, you were just like women, unable to leave your homes, would have been sitting in your house. نصرناك من جهلنا يا ابن هند على النبأ الأعظم الأفضل. We helped you out of ignorance, and that is to you, O son of Hind. He mentions Hind because she is the one who tasted the liver of Hamza. So he is mocking at the grandma, at his mother, Hind, على النبأ الأعظم الأفضل, that we made you stand against that great news. Naba al-A'zam, it's the surah in Quran which is the great news, and that is Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Now he says, وحيث رفعناك فوق الرؤوس نزلنا إلى أسفل الأسفل. We raised you over our heads, we made you sit, but we ourselves, we demoted and we descended down and down. وَإِنَّا وَمَا كَانَ مِنْ فِعْلِنَا لَفِي النَّارِ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ. And by this action of ours, that what we did, appointing you as the Khalifa, removing Ali from office, We have indeed got into Darakil Asfal, that is the lowest level in the hell. وَكَمْ قَدْ سَمِعْنَا مِنَ الْمُصْطَفَى وَصَايَا مُخَصَّصَةً فِي عَلِي. And how much did we not hear from Mustafa, from Rasulullah, all that will and all this advice that he had in favor of Ali. And then says, وَفِي يَوْمِ خُمْ رَقَى مِنْبَرًا يُبَلَّغُ وَالرَّكْبُ لَمْ يَرْحَلِ. And on that Ghadir, when he mounted the mimbar and he spoke so loud and clear before everyone, we haven't forgotten that. فَبَخْبَخَ شَيْخُكَ لَمَّا رَآ عُرَى أَقْدَ حَيْدَرَ لَمْ تُحْلَلِ. And your Shaykh, that is the first Khalifa, and the others, all of them, they went and they swore an allegiance on the hands of Haydar, of Rasul, of Amirul Mu'mineen. When وَإِنَّ عَلِيًّا غَدًا خَصْمُنَا وَيَعْتَزُّ بِاللَّهِ وَالْمُرْسَلِ. Says tomorrow on the day of judgment, our enemy who is going to oppose us, stand against us, is our Ali. And what are we going to do there? And the honor and the grace will be theirs, and we will be disgraced. فما عذرنا يوم كشف الغطاء لك الويل منه غدا ثم لي. Says that what excuse do you have for the day of judgment tomorrow when the veils will be removed? Then upon you be woe and upon me. فإن كان بينكما نسبة فأين الخسا من المنجلي. Says if you want to compare yourself with Ali, how can that be compared? How can you compare the stars in the skies to pebbles on the earth? وأين الحصى من نجم السماء وأين معاوية بن علي. How can you compare the stars in the sky to the pebbles on the earth and Muawiyah to Ali? وقولي لهم إن فرض الصلاة بغير وجودك لم تقبلي. It was me, Muawiyah, who came and said to the people that my prayers will not be accepted without the wilayat of Muawiyah, and you want to stand against me, you want to play games with me. I will tell you off, and I will tell everyone what exactly happened and how I removed Ali and how I instated you in the office. So even the enemies, they knew the qualities of Amirul Mu'mineen, the greatness of Amirul Mu'mineen, and how they stood against Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam. Now, on a night like tonight, when Amirul Mu'mineen is on his bed of Shahadat, here the bed was brought into the place according to his wasiyah, that be brought to the room where he used to offer his prayers, where he used to worship. So the bed was prepared there. Amirul Mu'mineen laid down there, and people, they were coming and going, frequenting, and the wasaya were being, advices were given to every one of them. And then Imam says to his sons, says, "O you my sons, who are not from Fatima, be obedient to my sons who are from Fatima." And then he calls Imam Mujtaba and Hassan, and there he has a long wasiyah. Now this wasiyah, it seems that Imam had instructed someone to write that wasiyah, which has now been transferred to us. I'll just recite a few phrases from that wasiyah. Now this is someone who is on the deathbed, someone who is the best of the creation after Rasulullah, someone who was killed for his justice, someone who is the first Mazloom, the first oppressed in this entire creation of Allah, and no one is like Amirul Mu'mineen. Even Abu Abdullah, the Masa'ib that unfolded on him were not like Amirul Mu'mineen. Imam as-Sadiq says that what unfolded upon Amirul Mu'mineen, adha wa amar, much bitter, more painful. Now from the wasiyah says that I advise you, my sons, Hassan and Hussein, Allah, that is when Ibn Mulzim had hit him. Now the wasiyat is usikuma bitaqwallah. I advise you to be muttaqi, to be God-wary, and that you don't run after the world. Although the world will run after you, dunya will come after you, but you don't go after dunya. Says, speak the truth and act in expectations for reward, and be an enemy of the oppressor and a helper of the oppressed. قولا بالحق وأعملا للأجر وكونا للظالم خصما وللمظلوم عونا. And then says وأوصيكما وجميع ولدي وأهلي ومن بلغه كتابي بتقوى الله. I advise you too, that is Hassan and Hussein, and all my children, and all the members of my family, and everyone whom this note will reach, to fear Allah, to keep Allah in all your affairs, and keep your affairs in order, and to maintain good relations among yourselves. And I have heard from your grandfather saying that improvement of mutual differences is better than general prayers and fasting. Then he says, Wallah, Allah fil aitam, فلا تغبوا أفواههم ولا يضيعوا بحضرتكم. Fear Allah and keep Allah in the matters of orphans, so do not allow them to starve, and they should not be ruined in your presence. Wallah, Wallah. Wallah, Allah fi jiranikum فإنهم وصية نبيكم. Says, fear Allah and keep Allah in view in the matters of your neighbors, because they were the subject of the Prophet's advice, and he went on advising us so much that we thought that he would allow a share of inheritance for the neighbors. Wallah, Allah fil Quran la yasbiqakum bil amali bihi bighayrikum. Says, fear Allah and keep Allah in view in the matter of the Quran. No one should excel you in acting upon Quran. Wallah, Allah fis salat fa innaha amudu dinikum. Fear Allah, keep Allah in view in the matter pertaining to salat, the prayers, which is the pillar and the column of religion. Wallah, Allah fi bayti rabbikum la takhluhum ma baqitum fa innahu in tarak lam tanazaru. Says, fear Allah and keep Allah in view of the matter of the Kaaba, the holy house, and do not forsake it so long as you live, because if it is abandoned, you will not be spared. Wallah, Allah fil jihad bi amwalikum wa anfusikum wa alsinatikum fi sabilillah. Fear Allah, keep Allah in view in the matter of jihad, with the help of your property, your lives, your tongue, and in the way of Allah you strive. وعليكم بالتواصل والتبادل وإياكم التدبر والتقاطع. You should keep to respect for kinship, and then spending for others, avoiding turning away from one another, and severing mutual relations. ولا تتركوا الأمر بالمعروف. And do not abandon أمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر. ويولي عليكم شراركم. When you do that, then the mischievous among you in the community, they will dominate over you. And then he says, Ya Bani Abdul Muttalib, لألفيناكم تخوضون دماء المسلمين. Then he said that, O sons of Abdul Muttalib, certainly I do not wish to see you plunging harshly into the blood of Muslims, shouting, Amir al-Mu'mineen has been killed. Beware, do not kill on account of me, except my killer. And the instructions given by Amir al-Mu'mineen were clear to Imam Mujtaba. Says that if I survive, then I know what to do. And if I die because of this fatal attack and wound, then Hassan he will strike him with one striking, and in that one strike, if he dies, if he doesn't, then he will just be left. So the clear instructions were given by Amir al-Mu'mineen, and then says, wait till I die, and then the fate of this Ibn Muljim will be known. Now, in this wasiyah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, this was a general wasiyah to everyone. Now to Imam Mujtaba and to Imam Hassan alayhim as-salam. He says that when his health deteriorates, start saying, Ilahi, أسألك مرافقة الأنبياء والأوصياء وأعلى درجات جنة المأوى. That God, I want the kindness and the association, the acquaintance of all the prophets and their successors, and I want the highest of ranks in the Jannatul Ma'wa. and says to the angels to be gentle and kind towards him, and then says, Rabbi, Rabbi, and then says to Imam Mujtaba that when I die, I want you to wash me and then to perform hunut on me. And the hunut with the kafur that was sent from the heaven for Rasulullah, part of it which was used, part of it is for me, and the remaining was for Hazrat Fatima, and the remaining is for me. And then says, once you've performed the hunut on me, hunut it's the applying of kafur on the forehead and on the 7 parts of the body, on the forehead, on the 2 palms, knees, and the toes. And it is mustahab to apply it on the nose as well, and mix it with some turbat of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that's for us. Now, that says that after performing hunut and shrouding me, you will perform prayers on me. And the prayers that are for me are prayers with 7 takbir, which are permitted only on me and to Imam al-Asr from the descendants of your brother Hussein. So for these two, the funeral prayers will have 7 takbirat. For everyone else in the world, it is 5 takbirat. Says 5 for everyone, 7 for Imam Mahdi and for me. And then he says that, Hassan, I want you, once you've offered prayers on me, you and Hussein will hold the coffin from behind. And then from the front, Jibreel and Mikael, they will lift the coffin. And they will take me to a spot. And that spot, the grave, when you just move the earth a little, you'll find a grave is readily available. That grave was dug by my grandfather Nuh. And there you would find a plank of wood. You lay me on the plank, and there will be 7 large bricks by the grave. And then you place those 7 bricks on my grave, and then you move one of them, and you see that I will not be there in the grave, because it is the command, the divine command, that the successor of every prophet, he unites with the prophet himself. So I won't be there in the grave. Now it so happens Amir al-Mu'mineen passes away, and according to his instructions, Imam was washed and then shrouded, and the coffin was given, and then brought to this place to be laid to rest. And then Imam says to Imam Mujtaba, once you've buried me, don't stay there for long. Quickly leave the place. Don't leave any trace of my burial on the ground. And in fact, make 4 fake graves, just so that people don't know where the original grave is, where the exact grave is. He says, make one in Masjid Kufa, make a grave in Rahba, make another grave in Najaf, another grave in the house of Joda, so that people, they don't know where I have been buried. Because these mala'in, these accursed Khawarij and the followers of Bani Umayyah and Muawiyah, they would definitely come and exhume me from my grave, and they will disrespect my grave. For that not to happen, just leave no trace of my burial, make some fake graves here and there, and also put a body on a camel and send it to Medina, so that they think that I've been buried in Medina. Now, this grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen was not known until the time of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam as-Sadiq, he identified the grave. Now, this is around 50, 60 years after the Shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that people, they got to know where Imam has been buried. That is again another painful musibat that we see for someone who is the first person after Rasulullah, for someone who there are so many ayat that speak so loud. For someone, the command of Rasulullah is that you must laud and praise him in your meetings, in your gatherings, in your majalis. For someone with such a high and lofty rank and such a Mazloom funeral be observed. Now here Imam, his wasiyat was given to Imam Mujtaba, and then his health deteriorates, and there was sweat that had on his forehead, like pearls of little pearls on his forehead. Here Amir al-Mu'mineen says that I've heard Rasulullah say that on the forehead of Mu'mineen, when you see that sweat, means that it's the time for departure has drawn close. And then he says, Hassan, Hussein, I see the Prophet here, and I see my uncle Hamza, I see my brother Ja'far. All of them, they are anxiously waiting for me to depart and to arrive there. And then recites لِمِثْلِ هَذَا فَلْيَعْمَلِ الْعَامِلُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. And when Imam Mujtaba and Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein were crying, they says, why do you cry, Hassan? Because when Imam was in that state, Imam Mujtaba was by his head, he was crying. A few of the tears from his head dropped on the pure body, on the pure face of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He opened his eyes and sees that, says, Hassan, why do you cry? Very soon you're going to go through the same fate. You will be poisoned by these people. You will go through the same pain. And Hussein, and your brother Hussein, even worse than that, he will be killed, he will be martyred. And observe patience, as this is the path that we have ahead. He says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, and then he departs. According to his wasiyah, Imam Mujtaba, he carries out every bit of it. And then they say, here his other son, Muhammad Hanafiya. He says that when we were carrying the body, that is Imam Hassan and Hussein from behind, Jibreel and Mikael from the front, and the body was being taken to that place of burial where it is Najaf today, says that every tree, every wall in respect of Amirul Mu'mineen, it bowed down. There says Masjid Hannana, the wall of Masjid Hannana, it bent down in front of the body and of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam. Now this wall, it was just like that until the time of Saddam, la'natullahi alayh. And then when the head of the Bohras, he refurbished and reconstructed the mosque, he demolished that wall and they made a new wall. Until before 40 years, 30 years, that hunched wall was still there in Iraq, which had the wall that had bowed down before the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Says that the body was taken to be to his place of burial. Imam Mujtaba removes the dirt and then he finds a grave readily available. And on that, in that grave also there was a note which said that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, هذا ما حفره نوح النبي لعلي وسي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قبل الطوفان ب700 عام. 700 years before the storm of Prophet Nuh, says this grave was dug by Nuh the Prophet for Ali, the successor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. So according to what Imam said, Imam was put on the plank, and then the 7 bricks also were there. And then when he put the 7 bricks and he removed one of them just to see, as Imam had mentioned, that my body would have united with the body of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he did not find him there. Now, those who participated in this very humble funeral of Amir al-Mu'mineen, from his sons, it is Hassan Hussein from Fatima, and then Muhammad Hanafiya, his other son, and Abdullah bin Ja'far, his son-in-law. These were the people who participated in the funeral. And from the front, it was Jibreel and Mikael who were carrying the coffin. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam, with all that height and with all that might and azama, he also departs from this world in such a painful and such an oppressed manner. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin, wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun. Allahumma ahyina hayata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, wa amitna mamata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة محمد وآل محمد وفي الآخرة شفاعة محمد وآل محمد. Ya Allah, all du'as and hajat, that every one of you, whatever you have, be given, be granted to you, be qabul and hasan. Allah, enlist us among the best of the followers of Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam, and our children to be enlisted among the best of Muslims. Ilahi, hasten in the return of our Imam, our master, and count us all among his servants and those who seek shahadat in his service. Matam Hussein.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. تیغی فرود آمد و فرقت شکست، آه. تیغی فرود آمد و فرقت شکست، آه. فرقت شکست و موی تو در خون نشست، آه. قربونت برم امیر المؤمنین، خون قطره قطره از تب پیشانیت گذشت. چشم تو را در آن سحر تیره بست، آه. زخم سرت عمیق شد اما تو را نکشت. آری تو را که طاقت این درد هست، آه. از آن دمی که ماه تو در خاک و خون نشست، در بین کوچه آینه تو شکست، آه. زخم دل تو سر زد و جان تو را گرفت، زخمی که بر نداشت دمی از تو دست، آه. حالا دوباره همدم زهرای خود شدی، دیگر بس است ناله و دیگر بس است، آه. ای که از صورت خونین تو غم ریخته است، با تماشای تو یک بار دلم ریخته است. چه به روز سر تو آمده آخر بابا، سرت از ضربه شمشیر به هم ریخته است. دخترت کاش بمیرد که نبیند هرگز خون فرق تو قدم پشت قدم ریخته است. ای مجاهد شهید مطهر، مرتضی را چو آیین مظهر. ای شهید ره حکمت و علم، خون تو حافظ دین و دفتر. در عزای تو ای بحر تقوا، دیده در خون دل شد شناور. گریه بر ناله ره بسته و غم، می گدازد دلم را به مجمر. خام لرزد در کف من از غم تو، چون سرایم ماجرای ماتم تو. در شگفتم من چه گویم تا که غم نشکند خامه را سر. در عزای جان گزاید سینه سوزد چو کانون اخگر. بشکند دست آن کس که برکند زین چمن آن درخت تناور. حیف از آن نوبهار آخرین باد که از خزان ستم گشته پر هر شب و روز دیده بارد گوهر پاک از غم تو ای امید خفته در خاک. خشم امت ز سوگ تو جوشید، بی تو رهبر سیه جامه پوشید. خود نمیری که مردن تو را نیست، زنده ای زنده تا صبح محشر. نقش هر دفترت زندگی ساز، زندگی از تو زاید مکرر. ای خطیب دلنواز نکته پرداز، عندلیب نغمه ساز فکر پرواز. ای دریغا نشنود دل جان فزا نکته هایت ز منبر. رفتی و مانده داغ تو در دل، رفتی و مانده یاد تو در سر. هر شب و روز دیده بارد گوهر پاک از غم تو ای امید خفته در خاک. خشم امت ز سوگ تو جوشید، بی تو رهبر سیه جامه پوشید. والحمدلله علی لعنت الله علی قوم الکافرین. التماس دعا.
محتاج دعا. احسنتم.
یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی ای علی یا علی ای علی یا علی ای علی. یہ درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں. عرب و عجم کے مولا دنیا سے جا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں. عرب و عجم کے مولا دنیا سے جا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں. کچھ تو خیال کرتے داماد مصطفیٰ کا، کچھ تو خیال کرتے داماد مصطفیٰ کا. سجدے میں جو علی پہ ہے ظلم ڈھا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں، بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں. کچھ تو خیال کرتے داماد مصطفیٰ مصطفیٰ کا کچھ تو خیال کرتے داماد مصطفیٰ کا سجدے میں جو علی پہ ہائے ظلم ڈال رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں احمد کے بعد زہرا اب چل بسے علی بھی احمد کے بعد زہرا اب چل پڑے علی بھی آثار پر جدن کے ظالم مٹا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بالوں کو کھول زینب کلثوم رو رہی ہے بالوں کو کھول زینب کلثوم رو رہی ہے سر کر چراغ ڈوبی شامی جلا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں نکلے ہیں آگ لے گئے کچھ لوگ صحیفہ سے نکلے ہیں آگ لے گئے کچھ لوگ صحیفہ سے سادات کے گھروں کو اب تک جلا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں منا رہے ہیں دوسری کے گھر میں چلنا وہ شام کا سفر ہے دوسری کے گھر میں چلنا وہ شام کا سفر ہے تیری قید کے زمانے نزدیک آ رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو منا رہے ہیں بے درد مسلمان تو خوشیاں دو کے لیے کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر کیا یاد علی کو آیا ہے بازار شام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مسلح پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مسلح پر کیا یاد علی کو آیا ہے بازار شام مسلح پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مسلح پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مسلح پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین کرتی ہے اذان بابلا کرتی ہے اذان بابلا مسجد کا دہن ہے فرش اذا مسجد دہن ہے فرش اذا ہے در کے لہو سے تر ہے زمین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین روتے ہیں جبریل امین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین کیوں روزے دار پہ ظلم کیا کیوں روزے دار پہ ظلم کیا تو نے بن ملجم یہ تو بتا تو نے بن ملجم یہ تو بتا شک ہو گئی کیوں مولا کی زمین درخوں میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین درخوں میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین زینب پہ یتیمی چھائی ہے زینب پہ یتیمی چھائی ہے مسجد سے خبر یہ آئی ہے مسجد سے خبر یہ آئی ہے لو قتل ہوا کعبے کا مکین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین عباس تڑپ کر روتے ہیں عباس تڑپ کر روتے ہیں رخصت میرے مولا ہوتے ہیں رخصت میرے مولا ہوتے ہیں گر جائے فلک پھٹ کر نہ کہیں در خون میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین ترخوں میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین
کرتی ہے اذان با پہلا
کرتی ہے اذان با پہلا
مسجد کا سہل ہے فرش اذان
مسجد کا صحن ہے فرش اذان
حیدر کے لہو سے تر ہے زمین
ترخوں میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین ترخوں میں ہوئی حیدر کی جبین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین اللہم صلی
أحسنتم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولمن وجب له حق علينا ولمن وصانا بالدعاء ولجميع أمة محمد وآل محمد لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات الفاتحة مع الصلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد تقبل الله. Thank you. So we have the Amal at 10 p.m. in about less than 2 hours, 1 hour and 40 minutes.